Ever heard of Roswell? Of course you have. Flying saucers, alien bodies, government cover dash-ups ... It's the stuff of legends. But what if I told you the most fascinating part of the Roswell story isn't the sensational headlines, but the actual physical debris that was found? Today, we're cutting through the noise. We're not talking about little green men. We're talking about the real, tangible mystery that started it all, the wreckage. What was it? Where did it come from? And what does it tell us about what really happened in the New Mexico desert back in 1947? Let's dive into the story of the Roswell debris. It all began in early July 1947. A ranch foreman named W. Mack Brazel was riding his horse about 75 miles northwest of Roswell, New Mexico. After a fierce thunderstorm the night before, he noticed something unusual scattered across a huge area of his pasture about 3/4 of a mile long and several hundred feet wide. This wasn't just a bit of trash. It was something he'd never seen before. He described pieces of tinfoil-like material, strange lightweight beams, and a sort of parchment-like substance. The most baffling part? The material was incredibly strong. He couldn't tear it, burn it, or even dent it with a sledgehammer. And the foil, when crumpled, would instantly smooth itself out, completely wrinkle-free. Imagine finding something like that in the middle of nowhere. Brazel, being a practical man, gathered some of the debris and, a few days later, drove into Roswell to show it to Sheriff George Wilcox. Sheriff Wilcox was stumped. He contacted the local military base, Roswell Army Airfield, home of the 509th Bomb Group, the only atomic bomb squadron in the world at the time. This wasn't some backwater outpost. It was one of the most sensitive military installations on the planet. They sent out their top intelligence officer, Major Jesse Marcel, to investigate. Marcel, along with another officer, followed Brazel back to the debris field. What Marcel saw blew his mind. He later said, "It was something I had never seen before, and have never seen since. It was not anything from this earth." He filled his car with the strange material and brought it back to the base. This is where the story takes its famous turn. The base commander, Colonel William Blanchard, authorized a press release that stunned the world. On July 8, 1947, the Roswell Daily Record ran the headline, "RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region." The story went viral. The military had officially announced they had recovered a crashed flying disc. But just as quickly as the story broke, it was shut down. The very next day, the military held a press conference in Fort Worth, Texas. General Roger Ramey, Marcel's superior, presented what he claimed was the actual debris to the press. But this wasn't the strange, indestructible material Marcel had described. It was just the tattered remains of a standard weather balloon with a radar reflector. They even had Major Marcel pose for photos with the balloon wreckage, looking visibly uncomfortable. The official story was that everyone, from the rancher to the intelligence officer, had simply mistaken a common weather balloon for an alien spacecraft. The press release about a flying disc was retracted, called a mistake, an overzealous error. And just like that, the Roswell incident was officially explained. For decades, that's where the story ended. It was just a weather balloon. Case closed. But the witnesses never forgot what they saw. Decades later, starting in the late 1970s, key players began to speak out again. Jesse Marcel, now retired, went on record stating that the material shown at the press conference was a switch. It was not what he had recovered from the field. He insisted the real debris was otherworldly. His son, Jesse Marcel Jr., who was just a boy at the time, also remembered his father waking him up in the middle of the night to show him the strange wreckage spread across their kitchen floor. He recalled handling the small I-beams with purplish, hieroglyphic-like symbols on them. Symbols that looked like nothing he had ever seen. Other witnesses came forward too. The daughter of the sheriff described how her father was threatened by the military to keep quiet. The son of General Ramey's chief of staff claimed his father later told him the weather balloon story was a cover-up. Even the mortician in Roswell, Glenn Dennis, claimed he received strange calls from the base asking about child-sized coffins and how to preserve bodies that had been exposed to the elements. So if it wasn't a weather balloon, what was it? This is where the story gets even more complex. In the 1990s, facing renewed public pressure, the U.S. Air Force released 2 reports. The first report, in 1994, updated the weather balloon story. They now claimed it wasn't a standard weather balloon, but a top-secret high-altitude balloon array from something called Project Mogul. Project Mogul was a real, classified program designed to listen for sound waves from potential Soviet nuclear bomb tests using microphones carried by these balloon trains. The materials used in Project Mogul foil-like radar reflectors, balsa wood beams, and reinforced tape did bear some resemblance to the debris described. The Air Force argued that the rancher and even the intelligence officer, who were unfamiliar with this top-secret project, could have easily been confused. It seemed like a plausible, if convenient, explanation for the debris, but this explanation still left many questions unanswered. For one, the descriptions of the debris from first-hand witnesses don't perfectly match Project Mogul materials. Witnesses like Mack Brazel were adamant that the material was metallic, not balsa wood, and that the foil had memory-like properties, returning to its original shape. Then there are those strange symbols. The tape used in Project Mogul did have some floral or geometric patterns on it, but witnesses insisted what they saw were distinct, non-repeating characters like a form of writing. Furthermore, the sheer scale of the debris field described by Brazel seems much larger than what a single Project Mogul balloon train would create. And this explanation does nothing to address the accounts of military personnel cordoning off a second crash site or the stories about recovered bodies, which the Air Force later tried to explain away as distorted memories of dummy drops that happened years later. So we are left with a fascinating puzzle. On one hand, we have the official military explanation of Project Mogul, a top-secret Cold War project that provides a terrestrial, albeit classified, origin for some of the debris. It's a tidy explanation that wraps things up nicely. On the other hand, we have dozens of sworn testimonies from credible witnesses, military officers, ranchers, and civilians who insist that what they saw and handled was not from this world. They describe materials with properties that defied the physics of the day and symbols that belong to no known language. They describe a coordinated and intimidating effort by the government to silence them and replace the real evidence with a flimsy cover story. The debate hinges on this. Do you trust the official, changing narrative of the government, or do you trust the consistent, compelling accounts of the people who were actually there? The truth of the Roswell debris lies somewhere in that gap. Was it a simple, secret military balloon? Was it something more exotic? A piece of experimental technology so advanced that it was mistaken for something alien? Or was it exactly what the initial press release claimed, a captured flying disc? The physical evidence, the real debris, was confiscated by the military almost immediately and has never been seen again by the public. All we have are the memories and the stories. But these stories, when you look at them closely, paint a picture far more mysterious and compelling than any simple weather balloon. The real mystery of Roswell isn't about aliens. It's about the evidence that vanished and the truth that was buried in the New Mexico desert. What do you think happened? Was the government covering up a secret project or something much bigger? Let me know your theories in the comments below. The story of Roswell is a perfect example of how history can be shaped and reshaped, and how the truth can sometimes be stranger than any fiction we could imagine. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. If you enjoyed this exploration, please hit that like button and subscribe for more journeys into the world's greatest mysteries. We'll see you in the next video.